Hello everyone, welcome once again to our series on Islam and Muhammad. Today in this part 4 we will be discussing a very important event in the life of Muhammad. But before we start with the details of that event, let me share something very interesting with you. In the last episode we had discussed about birth of Muhammad, but I had not given you the exact date. The reason is that historians have some discrepancy or they have some disagreement regarding the actual date on which Muhammad was born. These dates, now the problem arises because they were following a lunar calendar and converting them into the present calendar creates such kinds of anomalies. Anyway, now what I'm going to do is I'll share with you two dates which are mentioned by two prominent historians. The first date is given by William Muir. According to his calculations, the birth of Muhammad took place on 20th of August 570 AD. On the other hand, the biography written by Saifur Rahman Mubarakpuri, which is Ar-Rahiq al-Makhtoom or the Sealed Nectar, he says that the date of birth of Muhammad is 22nd April 571. That means there is this gap of about 8-9 months between the two dates which are being given. And there are other dates also, but they normally fall between this gap of 8 and 9 months, give or take some days here and there. In those days, the custom in Mecca was that the well of women did not nurse their own children. They hired somebody to suckle their kids. And the nurses that were hired generally belonged to the adjoining tribes. Similarly, when the birth of Muhammad took place, for first few days, he was suckled by a servant of the house by the name Thuiba. And after some days, a group of women entered Mecca from the adjoining tribes and they were in search of kids which they would take away with them, and of course they would charge some money from the parents of the kids. Now, since it was a pecuniary gain, therefore preference was given to those children who had their father alive, because in those days the financial matters were in the hands of the fathers. As a result, Muhammad, being a fatherless child, was not on the priority of these women. So they went around the entire town, took the newborn babies along with them. Now there was this one particular couple, the lady was called Halima. They could not get any infant for themselves. So what they decided was that, okay, since we're not getting any child, let us take that orphan along with us. I will read out to you the version given by Saifur Rahman Mubarakpuri. Every woman who came with me got a suckling, and when we were about to depart, I said to my husband, by Allah, I do not like to go back along with the other women without any baby. I should go to that orphan and must take him. He said, there is no harm in doing so, and perhaps Allah might bless us through him. So I went and took him because there was simply no other alternative left for me but to take him. So when this couple were taking the baby along with them, after this there are some supernatural events which are suggested to be due to this gift of Muhammad. I'll read them out to you. The tradition is explicit on the point that Halima's return journey and her subsequent life, as long as the Prophet stayed with her, was encircled with a halo of good fortune. The donkey that she rode when she came to Makkah was lean and almost foundered. It recovered speed, much to the amazement of Halima's fellow travelers. By the time they reached the encampments in the country of the clan of Saad, they found the scales of fortune turned in their favor. The barren land sprouted forth luxuriant grass, and beasts came back to them satisfied and full of milk. Muhammad stayed with Halima for 2 years until he was weaned. So for these first 2 years, the child remains with them. Then the couple takes the child back to Amina, and Amina is glad to look at the health of the child because the child appears to be very healthy, almost twice his natural age. And she asks the couple to take the child back for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then bring him back. Now during this period when the couple took him again with them, that means after 2 years of age of Muhammad, is this particular incident which I'm going to narrate to you. This event is very interesting because there are so many explanations given about it. What I will do is, I'll narrate all the given versions to you, and then you can judge which one appeals to your sense of thinking or your way of thinking. What I will do is, I'll first read out to you the explanation given by William Muir in his book, The Life of Muhammad. He tells us that it was probably a fit of epilepsy, due to which the couple got a bit startled and they decided to return the child to Amina. When another 2 years were ended, some strange event occurred which greatly alarmed his nerves. It was probably a fit of epilepsy, but Muslim legend has invested it with so many marvelous features as to make it difficult to discover the real facts. It is certain that the apprehensions of Halima and her husband were aroused, for Arab superstition is wont to regard the subject of such ailments as under the influence of an evil spirit. They resolved to rid themselves of the charge, and Halima carried the child back to its mother. With some difficulty, Amina obtained from her an account of what had happened, calmed her fears, and entreated her to resume the care of her boy. Halima loved her foster child and was not unwillingly persuaded to take him back once more to her encampment. There, she kept him for about a year longer, and with such care that she would not suffer him to move out of her sight. Now let us look at the explanation for this particular event, which is given by Saifur Rahman Mubarakpuri in his book. He writes on page number 38 and 39, when, as related by Anas in Sahih Muslim, Gabriel came down and ripped his chest open and took out the heart. He then extracted a blood clot out of it and said, "That was the part of Satan in thee." And then he washed it with the water of Zamzam in a gold basin. After that, the heart was joined together and restored in its place. The boys and playmates came running to his mother, that is his nurse, and said, "Verily, Muhammad has been murdered." They all rushed towards him and found him all right, only his face was white. Now there is a third explanation which is given by Muslim traditions. Let us look at that also. For this I am taking up the source. Now this is from the earliest biography which is available to us. It was written by Ibn Ishaq and it has been translated by Alfred Yom. Some months after our return, he and his brother were with our lambs behind the tents when his brothers came running and said to us, "Two men clothed in white have seized that Qurayshi brother of mine and thrown him down and opened up his belly and are stirring it up." We ran towards him and found him standing up with a livid face. We took hold of him and asked him what was the matter. He said, "Two men in white raiment came and threw me down and opened up my belly and searched therein for I know not what." So we took him back to our tent. His father said to me, "I am afraid that this child has had a stroke, so take him back to his family before the result appears." So we picked him up and took him to his mother, who asked why we had brought him, when I had been anxious for his welfare and desirous of keeping him with me. I said to her, "God has let my son live so far and I have done my duty. I am afraid that ill will befall him, so I have brought him back to you as you wished." She asked me what happened and gave me no peace until I told her. When she asked if I feared a demon possessed him, I replied that I did. She answered that no demon had any power over her son, who had a great future before him, and then she told how, when she was pregnant with him, a light went out from her which illumined the castles of Basra in Syria, and that she had borne him with the least difficulty imaginable. This is the third explanation. Now there is a fourth explanation also, which is from the mouth of Muhammad himself, and it is even more detailed, more vivid, and more fabulous. Let us go through it. This is also from the biography by Ibn Ishaq. Some of the apostles' companions asked him to tell them about himself. He said, "I am what Abraham, my father, prayed for, and the good news of Jesus. When my mother was carrying me, she saw a light proceeding from her, which showed her the castles of Syria. I was succored among the Bani Saad bin Bakr, and while I was with a brother of mine behind our tents, shepherding the lambs, two men in white raiment came to me with a gold basin full of snow. Then they seized me and opened up my belly, extracted my heart, and split it. Then they extracted a black drop from it and threw it away. Then they washed my heart and my belly with that snow until they had thoroughly cleaned them. Then one said to the other, weigh him against 10 of his people. They did so, and I outweighed them. Then they weighed me against 100, and then 1,000, and I outweighed them. He said, leave him alone, for by God, if you weighed him against all his people, he would outweigh them. Now this is the fourth explanation. Now it is up to you to decide what kind of intellectual persuasion you belong to, and you can have your pick out of these. Yes, one more important thing. The recurring theme that you're seeing is that there was a light traveling with Amina when she was pregnant with this child called Muhammad. This explanation is also found on the page number 37 of the biography, which was written by Saifur Rahman Mubarakpuri. I'll read it out for you. Ibn Saad reported that Muhammad's mother said, when he was born, there was a light that issued out of my pudendam and lit the palaces of Syria. Ahmad reported on the authority of Arbad bin Sariya something similar to this. Now that is entirely up to you to think whether it is possible for a light to emerge from the pudenda of a woman, and can it be so strong as to light the castles of Syria or Busra, which are hundreds of kilometers away from this place. That is it for today. Thank you very much.